Hey everyone, welcome to the live chat. Excited to go through this stuff with you guys today. As you know, a few weeks ago, we went through all the new laws and different scenarios. We had a webinar on it. Today, that was about a month and a half ago. Today, what we're going to be going through is all like the nuanced stuff we've seen over the last 4 weeks. And it's a cluster. I mean, student loans have been a cluster for the last 5 years. But just some confusion because it's like, well, they said this, but this is there. So that's what we're going to be going through today. Quick disclaimer before we get in. I'm going to be going through a couple different scenarios and whatnot and saying some things. We are a fiduciary in terms of financial planning and whatnot. So there's some things that I got to be limited on what I say. With that being said, like I said, we're a fiduciary. The whole point of FitBucks is to develop technology that's affordable for you guys. So this stuff is confusing. Student loans, how it mixes in with home buying and retirement and just life in general. So you can come on, get help. It's $18.99 a month. It's not $4,000 to talk to us like typical financial planners because we have tech that helps you guys and helps us do everything. So if you guys sign up, build your profile, get to the dashboard, schedule a call, we'll walk through everything with you. But with that being said, what's going on? And we got some questions too. I'm bouncing around different screens here. I did get some questions via email as well as on Facebook from some people that aren't going to be able to attend live, but they're going to see the recording. So they want to, ask some questions. If you guys got questions, you can drop them in the chat. I can see the chat on there. So, anything that you guys want to have me dig deeper into, I'd be more than happy to. First of all, one of the big questions we get is that people have been going on to apply for income-based repayment plans, and pay as you earn is still a choice. And they're like, well, we thought it was going away. It is going away. We just don't know when yet. Okay. And so for a lot of you, if you go on there, you might be able to qualify for IBR for old borrowers or pay as you earn and not new IBR. If pay as you earn is the one that you qualify for versus old IBR, go on pay as you earn. It's 10% versus 15%. Just know in about a year from now, that's what we're thinking. You're probably gonna have to change. Okay. Which is also one of the questions we've been getting a lot of this of things like I'm on forbearance on save. If I stay on it, when do you think they're going to change these things? When it comes to like pay as you earn and save, when can they change it? They can change it tomorrow if they want to, and they can do something very quickly. 2 or 3 weeks they can do it. And in fact, when they pulled the plug on the save forbearance being 0% interest, it was like 2 or 3 weeks where it just changed. It can happen on this too. However, just looking at the landscape, like save, they requested 90 days last month to still go through stuff. So that puts us towards the end of the year. Wrap is coming out July 1st of next year. The student loan calendar starts on July 1st, not January 1st. So a lot is pointing, in my opinion, towards July 1st is like when pay as you earn is going to go away and when save forbearance is going to end. It's a guess. Like I said, it could be before that. It could be a little bit after that, but that's the guess right now. But that's pay as you earn. Okay. The other thing I've been getting is like, so what am I supposed to do in terms of pay as you earn, IBR for borrowers? First of all, the only way you know what you qualify for, like if you go to studentaid.gov and you use their calculators, it shows you everything. That's not what you qualify for. Okay. You have to go through the IBR application. And when you get to step 5, they're going to tell you what you qualify for. Okay. If you can get on IBR for new borrowers now, then go ahead and get on it. If it's pay as you earn, then go on that for now. And then we'll reevaluate, when they switch it and they make you go off of pay as you earn, we'll evaluate to say, what do you do now? Do you do old IBR? Do you go on save? And so on and so forth. Okay. From there, it's, well, how do I know which one's IBR, new bars or old bars on that screen, step 5? Because it doesn't necessarily tell you in the header. On certain applications, it will tell you in the text. It's a descriptive text, and it will say 10% of AGI or adjusted gross income or discretionary income or 15%. 15% is old, 10% is new. Okay. Some of you are not getting that information when you get to that point of the application. What we've been seeing is that people that use their tax return will see that information. People that don't will not see that information. Okay. Now, this is very important to understand because those of you that have followed our channel for a long time, by the way, if you guys don't follow the YouTube channel, be sure to hit subscribe. Helps the channel grow. That's my corny pitch to subscribe. So hopefully you guys do so. But in what we talk about in the past is that you don't want to give them access to your tax returns because they mess it up a lot of times. So we have people put down pay stubs, okay, and use pay stubs oftentimes. This is an exception where sometimes it might be good to use their tax return because one, you can see what you qualify for, but two, that's what they've been processing, and that's what we've been getting a ton of questions on: is how long is my application going to take to get onto an income-based repayment plan? The paper applications, we know people that have been waiting 3, 4 months. I just talked to somebody yesterday morning. They were waiting for 5 months, and they finally just got the notification that they were put on IVR. Now, on the other side of that, people that have been using their tax returns, I mean, it's from 2 or 3 days, a week or two, and they're getting it on very quickly. And the reason being is because the paper applications, somebody actually has to go through it, a physical person. The IDR like tax application using taxes, it's all automated, so it's a lot faster of a process. And so this might be the one time you want to use their tax return, but again, it's one of those things that we've been sitting down with people for the last month and a half. You got to be strategic about it. Like, is it the income that you want to report? If you're, filing separately versus jointly, all that type of stuff. So it's not just a cookie cutter thing. Like, I'm going to use my tax return, because it can really surprise you. Other thing that we've been seeing a lot of is like people saying that my payments are quadrupling versus save. And that's not necessarily true. Like, you could have had $100 payment on save. And yes, the payment might be $500 or $600 on IBR, but it's not because of the big 10% discount or anything that they're changing. It's because most likely your income that you were using was a lot different from 2, 3, 4 years ago versus what your income is now. And so apples to apples, it's not that going to be that different. Now, if you're only going to be able to qualify for IBR for old borrowers, it might be like 2 times more, but it shouldn't be 4 or 5 times more. And when you see that big number, like they're like, hey, your payments are $200 a month for 12 months, and then it goes up to $2,000 a month. That's just the standard 10-year plan. They have to put that there because they don't know what your income is going to be next year. So they don't know what your payment is next year. So that's why you have to recertify each year. And again, if that stuff's confusing, let me know, guys, because I'll be more than happy to go through that with you as well. But then the last thing, and I'll get to some of your guys' questions, because I know we got like 8 or 9, 10 questions to go through already. Student loan refinancing, because a lot of people have been paying off their loans and deciding to pay them off. Student loan refinancing is coming back. I mentioned earlier, like, our financial planning and student loan planning like service is $18.99 a month. Our student loan refinance service is free. So that's why we know so much about rates, what people are getting, and so on and so forth, because we have a ton of people calling and scheduling calls to go through our refinance service. What is that refinance service? We're not a lender. We don't work for a lender. We're partnered with 8 of them. We're basically like a broker, and we help you decide, should you be doing it? And then we help you decide which loan program to go into. Only about 20 to 25% of people that we work with actually refinance. A lot of times it doesn't make any sense, and we tell you that. And if it does make sense, then we strategically tell you, hey, like 10-year loan, 15-year loan, make prepayments, all that type of stuff. So the student loan refinance rates, what we've been seeing is about 5.5% to 6.5%. Those of you that have refinanced in the past and that you have, let's just say, like a 6% rate, you might want to look at it again, especially if you've been paying a year or two on your loans, because your balance is lower. So it's possibly that you can get to another loan that's the same interest rate, but because it's a lower balance and you're refinancing again, the required payment's lower. That doesn't save you any money, but it does 2 things. One, it gives your budget flexibility just in case some shit happens, like you can't make the higher payment. So it's good. And again, we talk about everything from a financial management, financial planning standpoint. That extra budget flexibility is great for your financial plan. But also, if you go to do things like buy a house or something like that, having that lower required payment actually makes it easier to qualify for a house. It makes it easier to qualify for a car loan. So from a financial perspective, the refinancing, even though it won't save you money, if it's like same rate, it still could be worth it to give you some budget flexibility on that. Okay. I'm going to bounce back and forth between different questions here. All right. So one of the questions was, I'm reading this off of one of my emails. Is there any way to adjust the percent that is paid for monthly payments? My wife went from having $100 to $200 per month payment to $850. This seems out of the blue. is it 10% versus what we were paying before? Especially now that it impacts our quality of life significantly. It's a huge expense. So first of all, that 850, I would first and foremost say, is it calculated correctly? Again, we see the loan servicer make mistakes all the time. Okay. Now I'll give you guys an example. And I'll pull this up on a demo so I can give you guys the exact numbers of the difference. Okay. In terms of monthly payment. So if I were to be making $80,000 a year, okay, the IBR for new borrowers is 471 a month. On a normalized situation, my save payment wouldn't be $100 or $200 a month. It would actually be closer to 300 to 350 a month. So save and IBR for new borrowers is not that different. Okay. If it's $100 on save, it's because they were using your old income from years ago, either coming straight out of school, so your income was really low, or just lower earning years. That's where the main difference is. Now, if you only qualify for IBR for old borrowers, that's 15% of income. So in that example that I just gave you, instead of paying like $450 a month, you'd be paying like $700 a month. And that is a significant difference versus save. Just because of the way the calculation is 15% versus 10%. But if you're able to get on pay as you earn or IBR, the difference shouldn't be that much. It's because of the income differentiation. Or like I said, they calculated it incorrectly, which wouldn't surprise me because they do that all the time. So again, if that's happening to you, let me know. Some of you guys asked, how do you guys ask questions on this? By the way, I got a couple of emails and a couple of Facebook pings. You guys on the live chat, you can put it right in the chat and I have it coming up. You guys can also email us at info@fitbucks.com. I have both up on my screen so I can see both. So either way, you guys want to ask questions, like it's fine with me. Sometimes you get people that do them on Facebook. I don't have Facebook pulled up on me right now because if I have too many things on, it starts slowing down the connection. So I turned it off. So either email us at info@fitbucks.com or you can also drop it in the chat. I can see both of them. Okay. So that is, question number one. Question number two, any idea when loans will start accruing interest and what the rates will be set at? The loans are already accruing interest. That started on August 1st of last month. Okay. What are the rates? It depends on what your loans are. So every loan accrues interest. So let's just say I have 10 loans and I'll show you guys how to do this. If you want to know how much interest you're being charged every month, what you do is you would take your loan balance on each loan and you just multiply it by the interest rate. And you take that divided by 12. That's how much you're accruing on that loan every month. And you do that for every single loan. And then you add that up, and that's how much interest is accrued every month. In our system, those of you that are FitBucks members, because I recognize some of your names, so I know that you guys are FitBucks members. If you guys send us your individual loan details, we'll get them uploaded into your profile, and we calculate like the weighted average interest rate of your loans, and then we multiply that by the loan balance, and that's how we calculate it. If you guys are really good with Excel, you can do it in Excel as well. It's not rocket science of a calculation, but it is good to know, just to know how much interest you're being charged every single month. Okay. All right, let's go back to email because I got a couple more too. My question is when does my 10 years for standard repayment start for my remaining $40,000 in loans when I switch from save? For context, I have been on save and I've paid off 95,000 of the 135,000 since 2020. That is freaking awesome. Congratulations. Taking advantage of some of that 0% interest stuff. That is freaking awesome. Congratulations. Then also that, coming off that, I'm stalling getting off a save until I know how much the payment will be per month. But it's so different. If my 10 years started, 6 months, blah, blah, blah. So I'm just reading some of this other details. All right. So a couple things here. First of all, in this situation, this is one of those situations where you might want to stay on save forbearance, because you have no payment due. And so even though interest is accruing on some of your lower interest rate loans, since you have no payment due, you could just start targeting the high interest rate loan. And so instead of having a monthly payment, you don't need to do that. Like you just say, hey, look, I don't have a monthly payment right now. I'm just gonna keep chucking money at my high interest rate loan. So we have a lot of people that are paying off their loans aggressively, staying on forbearance and targeting that high interest rate loan. Now there's a caveat to that though. Okay. Uh, to the individual, I can't name names because again, we can't give out private information, right? But in that situation, if your loans are at $40,000, if you owe over $30,000, you can actually go into the extended standard plan instead of the standard 10-year plan. And what that would do is drop your required payment pretty significantly. And so I'm going to pull up an Excel sheet. I'll do this calculation real quick. So that way I can actually give you actual dollar amounts. And I'm going to assume a 5% interest rate on the loans, because I'm assuming that most of those last ones are undergrad loans. The payment on the standard 10-year plan would be about $420 a month. The payment on the 25-year standard plan would be about $233 a month. But you can only get on that standard extended plan if you owe over $30,000. So in that situation, this is where we go in like strategic planning, by the way, guys. This is what I was saying, like 1899. We could dive deep into this stuff. How does it play with everything else you're doing? But in this specific situation, the person has $40,000 in student loans and paying them off aggressively. They can stay on forbearance and pay it down to like $32,000 and then say, hey, put me on the extended standard plan. And the payment's based off the $32,000, not the $40,000. So the required payment's a lot lower. And that goes back to what I was saying earlier about the budget flexibility for those people that are looking about refinancing. Even though the rate might not drop, even if it stays the same, it makes sense. That required payment, given that that flexibility is good stuff. That's what you're really going for. Okay. So I'm going to switch back over again, going back and forth. Let me see here. Sorry, I'm just looking at this because I'm going to do some math real fast, but I'll actually switch over here. So if I'm on save plan now, would you suggest changing to IBR? In most cases, it makes sense to switch. Right now, if I had to throw some percentages off, this is no like scientific, I could dig into our data to see, but just based on the conversations I've been having with people, about 80% of the time it's making sense for people to switch. When we're seeing it not make sense are things like people are just apply for buyback. So they're just waiting. So there's no reason to switch, which by the way, some people like that we've talked to has said, hey, look, I got 10 months that for forgiveness. So I put in for a PSLF buyback, but it's taken forever to get that actually approved. Should I just go on IBR and just make the payments? Because to them, they got to make the payment anyway. So they're like, screw it. I'm just going back on the repayment. So we're actually seeing a lot of people not even worry about PSLF buyback and just going back into repayment and doing it if you're on public service loan forgiveness. So we've seen a lot of people that have other goals, or maybe they're not in the best financial situation. Maybe they got some credit card debt. They're using this time to stay on forbearance to really tackle those other things. Or like I just went through in the last example where somebody's actually paying off their loans aggressively. We have people staying in forbearance because they could just keep tackling a high interest rate loan. Like you might as well, right? Another question we got, is the student loan forgiveness still available underneath IBR? Yeah, so loan forgiveness, of course, there's different versions of loan forgiveness. So IBR, PAYE, those are still available. PAYE, as you guys know, is going away. But IBR is available. PSLF is still there as well. Teacher loan forgiveness. I've been working with teacher loan forgiveness a lot over the last 2 weeks. That's an option as well. And actually surprised because I haven't seen this for like 5 years is Indian Health Services. IHS, like we've seen in the last week, I've seen like 3 or 4 with Indian Health Services. I hadn't seen that. Man, I can't even tell you the last time that I saw that. That was probably prior to COVID. Those of you that don't know what Indian Health Services are, I might get the numbers wrong off the top of my head, but I believe that you sign a 2-year contract and each year they pay $25,000 towards your loans. And then you can renew the contracts for 1-year periods after that. And they pay 25 grand each year. So for example, if you have like 150 grand student loans and you work for IHS for 5 years, loans are gone in 5 years. So I love that system. Those of you that don't know what IHS is, it's Indian Health Services. It's fantastic. I knew about them a lot just because before I started FitBooks, there's an Indian Health Services. I grew up in San Jose and there was one like a half a mile from my house. So great place to work. I know a lot of people that love it. So just something for you guys to think about on that. Another question. I live in Florida. I'm a teacher. I'm 30 years in and can retire anytime. Congratulations. That's fantastic. I want to retire too. I'll join you in Florida on the beach. There's something blah, 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 where I'm technically retired, but I keep working. Can I still pay into PSLF on drop to get forgiveness? If you are considered full time, you can still get PSLF. Okay. It all depends on how the school labels you. And I'm going to send an email to one of our guys too, on that. Let me send it over to him to see if he can respond. And he's specializing in the loan forgiveness stuff too, and the teacher loan forgiveness. And teacher. I'm going to see if he's around to respond to that as well. But my first inclination is, in order to qualify for PSLF, you have to be full time. Okay. So that is on that. Okay. Now, let me come back to that because I just sent him an email and I know he is responding. So let me come back to that one. Okay. I began taking loans in May of 2014. I'm on pay as you earn. When will I know if I'm able to get on new IBR versus the old one? The only IBR plan right now is the 15%. We are hoping it's going to be soon. As long as pay as you earn is there, it's not going to show you. So as soon as they get rid of pay as you earn, which again, like I was saying at the beginning, I think at the latest it's going to be July 1st of next year. We might see it before then, but I don't think it's going to be after then. If you actually took the first loan, that's a tough one. May 2014, because the cutoff was the end of June 2014. So we'll see. I've said this on the last live, actually. I said podcast, sorry, live. There's just like this fine line where, like, I've talked to people in DOE, they said that's a hard cutoff date. And other people are like, no, if you qualify for pay as you earn, you should qualify for new IBR when the switch is made. It's kind of up in the air. Nobody really knows on that one yet, just because of what's been going on. So let me read this because I just got something back from one of our guys. Yeah, so I mean, he said the same thing that I said in terms of the drop stuff. If you're on drop, basically it doesn't automatically disqualify you from PSLF as long as you're still employed full time by the employer and you're still making qualified payments underneath the IDR plans. So again, it goes back to what I said, just to confirm what I said earlier. If you're a teacher and you're on drop, it's just how your employer classifies you. Are you actually full time? Okay. Next question we got: how often does interest capitalize towards the principal balance? It's actually funny. I was literally just editing this morning a video on interest capitalization. I'm glad you brought that up because I've been getting a lot of questions about it. People are panicking because of interest capitalization. It only capitalizes when you actually get onto a repayment plan. So that interest will capitalize. You can't stop it. It always happens. It's not a big deal. But that's actually part of the reasons why, I shouldn't say it's not a big deal, but that's part of the reason why people that are paying off their loans, some of them are staying in forbearance, because the interest that accrues when you're in forbearance is not charged interest on top of interest. When you capitalize your loans, or when you're in a repayment and it capitalizes, it's considered balance at that point. So you start being charged interest on top of interest at that point. Again, nothing you can do to stop that, but it only does it when you switch repayment plans, and that's it. So it only does it once. So you don't have to worry about it over and over and over again, because once you start making your monthly payment, that goes towards the interest. So you'll be good there. Next question is do I still need to be in my current public employment as I continue to make payments? So there's some quotes in there too. Let me read the whole thing. Do I still need to be in my current public employment? Been since August of 2015, which is 10 years. As I continue to make payments, I won't meet 120 payments until May of 2026 for them to count. It doesn't have to be in your current employer. You can go work for another nonprofit and you can just keep making payments and it just picks up where you left off at the other employer. But if you go to work for like a for-profit, it's not going to count anymore. Okay. And your payment count stops and then it keeps going. Okay. But the other thing too, I don't know if you're saying May of 2026 because you hadn't worked at the nonprofit until 2016. But if you were at nonprofit from day one, you may be coming up here in November or December is when your grace period ended and you started probably. You could probably do buyback at that point, to try to get out of the loans earlier. But again, it's one of those things where buyback might only be like 5 months early and you still have to make the payments. So most people are like, screw it, I'm not dealing with it. I'm just going to keep making payments. So yeah, good question. But the only way it would keep going as long as you are still out of the nonprofit. Okay. If save all of a sudden goes away, which it is there a timeline to be able to switch to a different loan plan, or does it automatically go to the standard plan? So they will give you a timeline. So right now everybody's on forbearance. And this is what I said earlier. Nobody really knows when that forbearance is going to end. Okay. We can make educated guess and think of like, hey, this is when we think it's going to be. This is when we think it's going to be. We don't really know. Okay. But it can be 3 weeks. They could say, hey, you got 3 weeks to choose a plan. And at that point, you got to switch. That's why if you guys are not on our email newsletter, like we put out a lot of that information, of course, on the channel too, on this channel, subscribe, because when that switch happens, we'll be putting stuff out here in shorts, spreading that across like our Instagram channel or our YouTube channels or Facebook channels. Like we'll be getting that word out a lot when we find out when that switch happens. So yeah, it's going to be random. Nobody really knows. Okay. So yeah, good questions, guys. And that's, if you guys have more questions, I'll stay on for a few more minutes, but that is the high level stuff. Again, this stuff is confusing, guys. If you guys need help, like I said, go sign up at FitBucks. It's $18.99. It's full on financial planning, everything from your investments to your student loans, answering questions like this. We go through it every day. If you guys sign up, build your profile. And once you hit your dashboard, we highly encourage you. You can use all the tools on the site yourself if you want to, but we highly encourage you to schedule a call with us because we could walk through everything and do everything very quickly with you. And it's a lot more time efficient than you trying to mix and match all these financial things, right? And trying to come up with answers. So we can help you guys set everything up and answer questions for you. All the phone calls, there's no extra charge. It's all part of the $18.99 a month. All right. Other than that, it's, stay tuned on a lot of the stuff because again, if you're on pay as you earn right now, take advantage of it. Just know you might have to switch soon. The other thing too on that is some of you guys have recertification stuff where it says you might not have to recertify till 2026 or 2027. That can change too. They can change it tomorrow. They can say, nope, you got to recertify. Okay. And that's how that works. Somebody just asked, like, can we cancel the membership? Yeah, there's no long-term commitment. We do have an annual one that's discounted. Again, this is financial planning, so we highly encourage you guys to look at the long-term perspective, but there's no obligation to it. So if you guys want to cancel it, you guys can cancel it. I hope you don't. Obviously, I hope we're doing our job and you guys to get value from it. But yeah, there's no long-term contracts or anything like that. You guys can get in and out whenever you want to on that. So but good questions from everybody tonight. You guys can hear it. My voice is like starting to get scratchy. I've been on phone calls a lot lately, just because our calendars are so full of people scheduling a call now that all this stuff is coming to a head and people are going to be on repayment plans. So as always, thank you guys for joining the live. If you guys got any questions at all, please let me know. By the way, next week, we are probably going to be doing another live. This is for students next week. So if you know any students, this is going to be a massive thing. If they graduate between now and next May, our live next week is specifically for them. I highly encourage every student in that time frame to get on it. Okay. So with that being said, thank you guys again. It's been fun as always, and we will talk to you soon. See you guys later.